going to give him the treat until he gets on the bed. And so from here, since you've already taught the SIT, I would then just focus on the down here. And the way I would do that is I'm going to give you some treats as well. Just come over here and just relax for me. This is a Bill Jack, not something super high level. And what you're going to do is, as he gets more calm, that's not going to get the reinforcement because he knows that trick, right? I want you to have your face get super excited whenever he gets on the bed. You can take your hand here and lure him out over the bed. I think I can help you out. Hey, there you go. Now give it to him.
Good boy. Good boy.
Good job petting him under the head there. Great. You're just trying to reinforce him consistently. Command, and it sounds like you have some, you said free, so it sounds like you have some commands for that. So I might do some luring here, but especially if he's super treat motivated, I would like take some of his food or whatnot, and you can just start to give it to him whenever he does positive stuff like this. And then I would just kind of raise the level of distractions there. I like this bed turned this way because he has to step over the boundary to get off of it.
Okay.
Right? And that makes it a little bit easier for us to teach him to stay. And what we would do is, right now we're just doing, we're just giving him positive reinforcement for getting on. But what we would do is eventually mark him getting off as something bad. So when you're doing a bed stay, it's got two parts. It's got to get on the bed part and got to don't get off the bed part, all right? Right now he's got to get on the bed part, no problem, all right? And I bet you've been working on this stay as well.
Yes.
But you can also tell that in the face of a distraction, he's not sure which one's going to give him the best purchase. You see how he's just thinking, he's looking at me? And we want to say SIT, DOWN. I want to give him a cue to go to the bed. But the truth is, he already knows how to do that behavior, and I'd rather him just on his own, almost, all right? I'd rather him realize it himself and then get on there than me having to lure him a million times, right? And so, once again, if I've already taught this behavior, he's going to keep guessing. You see how he kind of nose punched me there, and then he guesses the sit. Not what I want, all right? Now, if he keeps doing this and he's really not sure, then I will kind of lure him over to the bed there, but I really want him to realize, oh man, I'm supposed to be on the bed. When he gets on, we both pet him, give him positive reinforcement. This behavior increases in frequency, intensity, and duration. Then we work on the front door, then we work on the grandkids, and we work on other situations. And we can take this bed or this this training system basically to other places, and then just make sure that we have continuity. So that becomes the issue, is making sure that across all the handlers, once again, that we're all on the same page. So what we can do with the private lessons is we would come out, we would work with you, we would basically work with him, and we would escalate them in difficulty. So the first ones, you would just focus on basic, simple things, answering the front door, not running out the front door, those sorts of stuff. That might be a little bit redundant now. It seems like you have some real functionality inside the house. And then as quickly as we could, we try to get out to that alley and work on what happened with you on the bike.
Okay.
Because I think that's obviously something that you want to be able to do with him.
Yes.
And you were having. It sounds like you were having a good time of it at first, and then he just took his kind of first step back with you in that situation. And I would kind of expect that as well.
I did not discipline him for that because he doesn't know any better.
And you're absolutely right. And so
I just want to focus on positives.
Yes, and that tends to be the issue there is you did it right. I mean, you had him in a relatively sterile area. You were desensitizing him to that area, and he just asserted himself at an inopportune time. And so that becomes, your difficulty there, which is him just understanding, that's the thing that he did is wrong. So going back to this bed stay right here, right as he goes to step off, that's where we mark what he would have done is wrong. Like, let's say we told him to stay. Right as he goes to step off, that's where we say no bad dog. It's where we assert ourselves. And dogs learn things in 1.5 second pictures. So as I'm walking with him or as I'm on the bike, as he shoots across me, I need to catch him right as he goes to make that intersection for me to tell him that I do not want him to do that.
He was pulling on me before that.
Okay.
And he was too far in front. So it was partially the handler's fault. I needed to pull him back.
Well, and the issue that you have there from your perspective is leverage and being on the bike and trying to maintain your balance and these sorts of things. So when I start to teach someone how to do a walk, I actually compare it to riding a bike. And because you kind of have the training wheels and everything, and you just start to escalate your way up, The way I would do that with you now is I would seriously just run next to you with the bike. And very simple. When you were taught how to ride a bike, right?
Same
What'd
thing.
your dad? Yeah, your dad basically stood right next to you. We'll do that exact thing, except I'm holding the dog, all right? And then you're just riding the bike. And the reason why that works more effectively initially is because if you're not just riding the bike and you're having to control the dog at the same time, he will at some point realize that you are relatively vulnerable and he can stop this at any point, right?
Okay.
And it's just one of those issues to where we want to make sure. I know you want it, big boy, but you got to do the right thing. See how much he's focused?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like when you're walking with him, he's got that same level of focus on you. And he's figuring out how can I manipulate the situation.
Yes.
Right? And he's not trying to necessarily be that bad, but he is very strong and very smart, it seems like, as well. So once again, I can imagine you being at the apex of that rep. We're working, and he once again he gets out ahead of you a little bit, and then he takes that liberty and he does that once again the wrong thing with it. And once again, he might not necessarily be mean-spirited with it at this point.
No.
But at the same time, if he's able to control the environment in that way, he'll do it. Let's see what he does. Oh, pat him, tell him, good boy. Come here, big boy. Oh, he went too far that time. Okay. So he carried right over. And this is why I like having, we have a beds that are a little bit elevated off the ground.
Uh-huh.
And if you can do that, that can make it a little bit easier. So once again, the bed right here, the boundaries on the outside, if I have that boundary all the way around, then that makes this just a little bit more functional as a situation. You can put that back in that corner there.
Okay.
And I actually think you'd have a lot better purchase of this. And then all you want to do is just slide it back out to where it is right now.
Okay.
All right. So it's, you can basically.
Why don't I use a command to teach him bed, meaning here?
Great question. You've already started that process. I want to make sure he is willing to do that on a routine. And what I mean by that is if I'm just sitting here and he doesn't know what to do, I don't want you to have to say bed a million times. I don't want you to have to say sit. I don't want you to have to say down.
No, the command should be done once.
Exactly. Or not at all.
Right.
And in reality, when you think about it, you use your commands when something goes wrong or when you're trying to get out ahead of something. Right? And let's say he starts to memorize your behaviors, which is what he's doing with me now. I want him to memorize it every time he goes on that bed. I'm going to be positive.
Okay.
And I don't want to have to mark that with command every single time.
Okay.
In the same way, I want him to SIT. And I want him to do that and know that's positive. And I don't want to have to mark that every single time. So once I start to achieve that behavior consistently, and this might be where I differentiate from other trainers, I start to phase that command out. Because after a while, he'll just start to understand, like my dogs, if I'm standing here and we're talking to you, eventually they would just lie down next to me. They'll start into a sit. If they get out of the sit and start to do something wrong, then they would essentially lie down. But for the most part, I can just come to a stop and just stay here, and they know not to put pressure on me, and eventually they would lie down and sit. Now, in a perfect world, we're out in the real world, and every time we stop, they sit and do that perfect, AKC behaviors, right? But at the same time, as they start to get more sophisticated, you, just like what you did, you give them a little bit more freedom to roam, that sort of thing. And in the end of the day, I don't want to have to be super heavy on the leash or super heavy with my commands.
Okay.
Honestly, I want to be able to take that leash, stick it in my pocket, walk around, and not have him pull the leash out of my pocket ever.
Okay.
And if I can have that, I know you want one, but you got to do the right thing. Oh, now pat him, tell him good boy.
Good boy.
Right?
Good
So
boy.
if we mark this
Good
kind of
boy.
stuff and we're consistent, you see how he's just working?
Yes.
I want to phase that cue out right there.
Okay.
And I want him to go down, but you see how he goes to the edge? No. All right, so I turn my back on him. All right, so now he's frustrated. He's like, well, what am I doing now? All right? Like I was giving him positive reinforcement. Oh, thank you. All right? And so you can do all this without the commands.
Okay.
If he starts to put pressure on you, or he's like jumping on you and stuff like that, that's where I'd use the leash and collar to deter him. But I would just keep doing this, and I would sit right there and I'd watch TV. And every commercial break, I'd get up and I'd go use the bathroom, or I'd go do something like that, and or go get something to drink. And I would keep reinforcing this, and then once again, you can have a solid command. I'll usually phase that in after. So dogs usually learn things initially with body language. And he doesn't know me from Adam. So while you might be real functional with your commands, I don't think he would be as functional with my commands, right?
Okay.
And so what I'd rather do is just have a reward history of him doing the right thing with me, and of this being reinforced, and then I can phase in the auditory cue. But what's going to happen is I'm going to start saying sit down and all that stuff. He's like, well, he's saying that kind of word, but it's different than the other my other handler. And in reality, he'll probably offer it anyway if you just wait, because he's only been taught so many commands. So that's what I'm saying. Like if we add more kind of arrows to his quiver, I think he would. If I taught him how to do a downstay right here, what he doesn't understand is if he did a downstay right there, he'd already be getting steady treats. So he's actually making it harder on himself.
Yeah.
So these are the sorts of things that if we just kind of back our way into this, usually we don't have to necessarily be as labor intensive with this, and that will keep us from having situations where we have to do a lot of physical handling. Going back to the reps with your wife, that's going to make it a lot more functional for her to handle him. And I don't want it to be a situation where, you know, we're real functional and everything works for us, and then whenever she gets alone with him, he takes a step back.
No.
Right? And so that tends to be what we're focusing on. You see he's kind of sitting real deep right there.
Yes.
So now he's starting to get it. All right? He's really thinking, okay, I'm not getting anything over here. And even when I go off and I try to get his attention, then he detaches from me and he starts spinning around. But, you know, this guy's pretty cool if I just stay right here. So these are the things that, once again, that we would just kind of implement, and then we would just kind of escalate the difficulty there. So you've got a couple different ways that you can do this. You can do private lessons or board and train. The private lessons, we come out once a week, escalate in difficulty, $375 for 4 lessons. And then the board and train is $1,200. It'd be $600 when you drop them off, and the other $600 whenever you pick them up. That program also includes 4 lessons. And then we would basically work him in there. And at the end of that, you would come out to my house, my facility. I would show you exactly what we've been working on. I'd show you the sit, the stay, the down, the walking, the bed stays, all the stuff that we've talked about so far. We would go over that, but I break it down into nice digestible pieces. And I say, okay, when you go home, I want you to focus on just this initially. Then when we come out for the first walk, I swear we'll get on that bike, right? But it's going to be real hard for me to teach you. I give you a whole dissertation on dog training and teach you how to ride a bike that day one. There's just so much information. I want to make sure that we're safe. And the key is that the key to dog training is about not making mistakes, in all seriousness.
And consistency.
Bingo. You hit it on the head. So
when I give him a command, a bedroom, he'll go into the bedroom, he'll go into the crate on command.
Great. Yes, I can tell you got great purchase with him. I mean, this is good. He's making great eye contact.
Yes.
He's not being submissive as I would like. I want him to give me more of a calming behavior. Not necessarily being submissive, but, you know, right there, what he would realize is if he lays down, I can give him that positive reinforcement. That's a more efficient way of doing this job, right? So
I never would have thought that. Okay.
And so by doing that, though, and then just having other people on the same page, so let's say somebody comes in the house, instead, he didn't do bad at the front door at all, right? But he got a little excited. What we could do, though, is once again just reinforce this bed stay while you're watching TV, that sort of thing. And
he's staying on there nicely.
Yeah. And then, during the commercial breaks, we get off and we go to the front door and I enter the front door real quick. It might take 10 seconds. Open the door, close it, come back, give him a treat, have a seat, watch TV, right? But after a while, he's like, well, if I see him walk to the front door, you might just be going to the front door. He's going to open it up and then come back. And so there's no there's somebody at the front door, let me see what's going on sort of a thing. And it becomes a lot easier to reinforce, once again, behaviors like this. So I take a little bit different approach in terms of when to phase in things like the commands and whatnot. And some trainers might be a little bit more leash-centric initially. But the way that I do it is I want you to have much more focus. I want you to have much more focus here. Let's see this. Is your wife?
Yes.
Okay.